Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a special meeting of the Grant County Council. Attendance has been taken, noting that Councillor Miller has sent his regrets. Everyone else is here. First thing on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have anything to add? No? Councillor Oakley, Councillor House, all those in favor? Thank you. Declaration of pecuniary interests. Seeing none, we're going to move on to communications, and the main reason why we're here today at a special meeting is 4.1, and I'll hand it over to Alice for a minute, then I'll take it back.
Thank you, Your Worship. So you have correspondence in front of you. This was received last week or within the last 2 weeks and addressed to Mayor Bailey. He is quite rightly, I think, chosen to bring it in front of you so that this is a council decision and there's input from everybody around the table. So we're hoping to get the top 5 priorities. I believe everyone's read it through. Staff are here to answer questions of clarification only, but not offer opinion. But if there's any questions that you have, staff are here to help you answer them.
Thank you. And just for clarification, there was a prior notification which had over 70 questions and recommendations, and they wanted us to answer all of them, or they wanted me to answer all of them, which was a obvious you're with us or you're against us sort of a deal, and it was very hard for me to put my mind around the fact that I was going to be commenting on all of your opinions, but luckily they withdrew that and they sent this, which is a little bit more manageable. So what I want to have happen here is that I only need top five to send back, and I will be signing these as my opinions as to how the county feels about the Ontario government as far as building and building codes and all the things that go along with that, all the things that go around with that. So hopefully we can come up with 5 and I can send it back as quick as I can. Looking for input. Does anyone want to offer any suggestions as to what one of the 5 should be? Councillor Bell?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just if I may, just before I do that, I've got narrowed it down to 6 in my list. I think it would be helpful if we just spent a few minutes thinking about what we want to get out of this. And if I think about what's happened in the county over the last many years, and particularly my time on council, we've done a lot in terms of housing, but there's one piece that really we miss, and that's the range of housing that this community needs. So when I looked at this list of 74, I did it with that lens on. I didn't think about broader aspects of planning for the housing or housing, another 1.5 million people. It was really, what do we need to do out of these 74 that's going to be helpful to us? So my top pick was number 2.
Okay. Next speaker, Councillor House.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the elements that I've been constantly struggling with on this subject is definitions, and Bill 23 came out and it had definite kind of definitions related to affordable housing that I believed and still believe were not helpful. So one of the top elements on my list is, I believe it's number 65. Develop and legislate a clear province-wide definition of affordable housing to create certainty and predictability. That to me is in my top 5.
Thank you. Councillor Pierce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to throw a little bit of a different wrench in here, if you'd allow me just a little bit of leeway here. I did go through it. I checked off the ones I liked. I checked off the ones I didn't like. I've got some nice color code happening. And as I'm going through it and I'm reading them all, I'm going, this is great. And then it struck me, and I'm going to be very blunt when I say this. In my mind, the question came to light of, honestly, how much time do we want to spend going through this list of possibilities to send back to the province with the thought that if we send our top 5 list, that those top 5 lists are going to have any influence at all on what the province is going to choose in the end. Because at the end of the day, we know we don't choose this, the province chooses this. And then I kind of struggled with myself thinking that way. And then I thought, no, let's hypothetically say that every municipality in Ontario sends back the same top 5. Do we really, really, truly feel that those top 5 would be the top 5 of the province? My own personal opinion around this horseshoe, we can have 10 different opinions here and one up there, Mr. Mayor, but my personal opinion is I don't feel we have any weight in what the province is going to choose. I've struggled with this. I did pick my top 5, but a big part of me feels that this is a waste of time. Sorry to have to say it like that, but that's how I'm feeling, sir.
Okay. I think there's a piece in all of us that know that that's the truth. But I mean, you do have to follow protocol and do things like this to show that you're still engaged. It can be, but we all sort of feel like that, I think. But I didn't want to do it and sign my name to it, thinking that I was speaking for all of you. So, Councillor Oakley, you're next.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a suggestion on how we can sort of cut back some of the time of litigating over 74 different options here. I was thinking perhaps we could pick up the same procedure we used last time we were dealing with a large list, i.e. committees, and each of us submit our top 5. We give it to staff. They pull up a spreadsheet of those ones that got votes, and we go from there to just give us a place to start.
And Councillor Oakley, just before the meeting, I spoke to Allison, and we knew that that's what you would say, and we're prepared to put it on the screen for you. Do we have Briar? Can she put the screen up? And we'll do just that, Councillor Oakley. Does everyone have their top 5? Okay, we'll start with Councillor Kyle. All right.
Yeah, I don't know if I have mine quite narrowed down to 5. I think one of the things I really struggled with was some of the ones that, like for example, the permitting as of right options, they broke them all out into separate ones, and to me, I feel like they should be together. So I really struggled to narrow it down to 5 because there was ones like, 3, 4, 5, and I don't know, maybe it was 6 that are all ones that I think kind of go together that I was annoyed were split out into each individual ones. But I agree that my top 2 were the same 2 that the others have already mentioned. So
that puts us in good shape.
65.
Okay, Allison, did you want to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just point out that in the page where the top 5 are listed, there is the option of adding comments. So that could certainly be one if you were to pick one of those, but then add that in as a comment after council so wishes.
Anything else? Councillor McAlpine.
I had a hard time sort of agreeing or disagreeing with too many of these just because of the way they were written, being so biased. I guess the one thing to say is that this government right now makes a decision, and then as soon as they do get a lot of backlash, they do back down a lot of the time, which is in some respects almost as frustrating as not following through with what they originally intended. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Councillor Oakley, I know that you have 5, and I'm sure they're alphabetically.
I actually have 20 ranked in order.
Right.
But I'll just do 5.
Right.
Which would be 3, 10, 4, 51, 65.
I was going to say bingo. All right. Do you want to speak to any of them? All of them?
I would agree with Councillor Kyle, and I would kind of lump all the as of right together, which for me, I picked 3 as my favorite out of the as of right designations, but I'd be happy to group them all together. And I also agree strongly with Councillor Howes in regards to the developing a clear definition of affordable housing province-wide rather than have us develop our own definitions.
Thank you. Councillor Howes?
Thank you. I had trouble narrowing it down to 5, but I'll give you 5, not ranked in any order. 65, 6, 40, 45, and 4. And as notes, I wanted, aside from what I already mentioned about the definitions, everybody's heard me talk about modest housing. There isn't enough, the word rental doesn't appear enough times in 74 choices. I think it appears twice. There need to be a lot more incentives related to rental property creation, and that might require a relook at the Landlord Tenant Act, or whatever it's called today, because nobody today wants to be a landlord. So that, and my other comment would be related to the modest part of it. Within the definition topic, we need a separate category for dwellings that are less than 1,200 square feet. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, do you want to speak again?
Yeah, I had number 2 already. It was at 40, 50, 53 and 68, and there's a theme there which is really about how to stimulate the building of the kind of properties that we are hearing that our residents want to have built. The one exception, I think, is number 53, which talks about the people that would be required to build them, because we do have a real shortage of skills. It's all very well saying you want to build 1.5 million homes, but if you don't have the people to do it, and we don't at the moment, we're never going to make it. So I think we need to invest in training and redirect people to skilled trades from perhaps where they are today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pierce?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I did 65, 2, 27, 40, and 32.
Want to speak to any of them or just let them stand?
That's just, as I say, it's tough to put it down to 5, but if I got to take 5, those are them. Thank you.
Councillor Chambers?
My top 5 is number 27.
That's your top 5? Thank you. Councillor Coleman?
Well, Chambers always tops us. I did 1, 2, 64, and 65, and that's all I could. The rest I could here and there.
Thank you. Councillor Garneau?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Admittedly, I went through and opposed or supported the list, but didn't rank them. I'm in agreement with other comments around the table. So if I can speak more generally, I favor those that support diversity in the inventory, density, clear definitions. I observed in the list that there were some things that looked to compromise safety provisions, such as egress, and would want to oppose those because if we're compromising safety to increase affordability, that puts vulnerable members of our community potentially at risk, especially if we're allowed to build timber structures taller. And I completely agree with Councillor Chambers with regards to number 27, simplifying the plain language. Even as a policy person, I find it entirely too difficult sometimes to navigate how it is we as councillors are supposed to make decisions. And I'd also oppose anything that decreases public consultation in the process. Thank you.
Any other comments? Councillor Coleman?
The one that really bothered me the most was number 6. Permit as of right secondary suites, garden suites, and laneway houses province-wide. That really bothers me.
So that's on the bottom of your list?
It is not even on the list.
It's not even on your list. Okay. So from what I'm gathering and what I've just heard, that the list of 5 are 3, 27, 40, 50, and 65. Put yours beside mine. So just this one changes. Two, 27, 40, 50, and 65. Well, not in that order, but.
No, I just did
Yep.
tallies. Do you want me to read it?
No, because I get my say too. So that's what makes this list. So if I sent back our remarks as 2, 27, 40, 50, and 65, are there any real objections to any of those? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Take a minute. Yeah. Yeah. Briar, do you want to bring that up on the screen? I'm not sure that this is a game changer for anyone in the government. I think Councillor Pierce's lack of maybe concern or interest in this project or this exercise could be the truth.
Mr. Mayor, if I can jump in there, it's not my lack of interest in this. It's the fact I went through the whole thing. I read them all. I ranked them all. I got a nice little color code, so I have done the homework. I just feel it's for naught.
That's what I just tried to say. But is Briar gone home? She's there. There we go. So Briar, according to what you heard, what are the top 5?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. I have number 2, amending the Planning Act provincial policy statement and growth plans to set growth in the full spectrum of housing supply and intensification within existing built-up areas of municipalities as the most important residential housing priorities in the mandate and purpose. I also have 27, simplify planning legislation and policy documents. Next is 40, waive development charges on all forms of affordable housing, guaranteed to be affordable for 40 years. And lastly, 27.
No,
20, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
2, 27, 40, 50, 65. Yeah. So number 2, number 27, 40, talk about that, 50 and 65. Yeah. 50, provide provincial and federal loan guarantees for purpose-built rental, affordable rental, and affordable ownership projects. And lastly, 65. Develop and legislate a clear province-wide definition of affordable housing to create certainty and predictability.
Thank you. So everybody's okay, Councillor Chambers?
I'd just like to make one comment on waiving development charges, because that has a negative impact on municipalities, from my opinion, in that the very thing we need is money to provide infrastructure for housing. And development charges provides the money for the infrastructure, such as water and servicing for housing. So if you waive development charges, then you're picking up on the taxpayer the cost of providing the services for housing. And that's contrary to my philosophy of the best way to increase housing is to provide servicing, and then if you have water and services available, then developers will build houses. For example, if the servicing was available in St. George, housing would be built. And if you have servicing in some of the areas where it's perhaps unaffordable, you're not going to have development, perhaps where you need it. So I'm a little bit leery of waiving development charges, although I understand you bonus to get what you want, and that's what the recommendation, whatever number, I think 40 is. So my philosophy is stop taking away development charges from municipalities because they use that to provide services, and that allows developers to build houses, because without services they can't build houses.
Thank you. And in this survey, there is a piece where we can put comments, so we'll make sure that's one of the comments. And also the piece about the rentals. It's only mentioned twice in the, I'm sorry, Councillor Chambers?
Just on another topic, if you want to make comments, recommendation number 17, where they're proposing to limit municipalities from requesting or hosting additional public meetings beyond those that are required, that's a bad recommendation, because if you want to soothe neighborhoods and get information to neighborhoods, sometimes you have to have public information sessions, public meetings, etc., and that paves the way in many cases in terms of understanding what's being developed. So if you limit that, then you're going to have a lot of ticked off people, perhaps where they don't need to be ticked off.
So I'll put number 17 down as a note too. Any others that you see standing out that needs to be sent back as a note or something other than the 5? Councillor House?
Thank you. Reading number 10, and it's in the kind of the group of as of right options. It concerns me, you know, it says allow as of right zoning of 6 to 11 stories with no minimum parking requirements on any streets that have direct access to public transit, including streets on bus and streetcar routes. I think this is another example where a more strict definition needs to be brought in, because we could end up creating a bus route around the county of Brant, and that doesn't necessarily mean that anywhere along that route there should be a 10-story building. Like there has to be further elements into those decisions, and I think like if that said specific to populations of 100,000 and better, then you know that makes sense. If there's a transit route in Oakville and they want to plunk a 10-story building on there, go for it. But that's just another comment I had.
No, and I think we can put number 10 down and we'll explain how it doesn't really apply to us right now, but we wouldn't be supporting it if it did. Councillor Pierce.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I marked ones that I totally did not like, and number 10 was absolutely one of them, but also number 9 there. If we start, you know, allowing as a right zoning up to unlimited height, that's just, you know, why are we even here if they're able to, in essence, do whatever they want? So to me, that's just taking our whole planning department out of it. If they can just go unlimited height and unlimited density, that's I don't understand the rationale behind that one either.
Okay, we'll note number 9 too. Councillor Kyle.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just further to Councillor Pierce's comment too, one thing that jumped out at me when I was looking at that one specifically was really there should be limits based on what the local fire department is even able to reach. Like if we don't have a ladder truck that can reach higher than say 7 stories, we shouldn't be building something higher than 7 stories.
Thank you. We'll note that too. Anything else? All right. Again, I don't know how much weight this has, but it needs to be filled out. It needs to be filled out by me. I feel good that I came to council for it. I feel confident sending it back now, knowing that most of you will be pleased with what I write. Okay. We have nothing in camera. I don't think this takes a motion. We can get a motion to have the mayor go forward and submit this survey with the results that were found this afternoon. It's Councillor Howes, Councillor Oakley, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Nothing in camera, nothing more. We're going to adjourn and we'll see you in about an hour and a half at council. So we stand adjourned.